welcome back to the LEC after Astralis' first win of the season, taking down Team BDS. I'm here to have a look at the game-deciding 27-minute Drake fight, where we finally get to see Astralis take a win. Wow, let's have a round of applause, everyone. I think this is very important in the game to really establish how important at times it is to be first on the objective. And there's a couple key factors I want to highlight here. One is playing with range. As you can already see, as we roll out the clip, Astralis have established full control across the river. When we take a look at the minimap, you can actually see that I just lost all my tools. And I'm gonna see if... Gonna roll it here, gonna take it slow. Honestly, we might not even need the tools, but once again, highlight circle, let's put it here on Deo as well. He's on a champion like Victor. Majority of the champions currently right now from BDS are melee champions. That means champions like Gwen, Sylas, they have a very hard time stepping up. So let's actually have a look at Deo. Let's take the range in between him and the melee champions all the time as we roll the clip out. It's super difficult for them to step out. So when we finally get to the point where they have to go in for a team fight, it's actually super important for the melee champions. All they really have to do is just go for the Drake, which kind of becomes impossible for them. So let's roll out the clip once again. And once again, pay attention to Deo. The way he just walks up, back and forth, entire time, not allowing the champions to go on him. Once again, allowing them only to turn up the objective. When they finally then go for the objective, it's already too late. They're all caught in between the AoE damage coming through from Astralis. So when the damage is finally solidified, Deo can just clean them all up on his Victor. There's nothing to do for BDS. And that's why it's so important when you have a comp that plays around with ranged, that you're first on the objective, your spacing is clean, and you can just take out the fight afterwards, which allowed Astralis to get the Baron and then later just end the game. That was all from this clip. Let's throw it back to a lovely analyst desk.
Thank you. But I think before we're back, we're actually going to look at a clip, I think, of Kaiser and Nisky.
Mistake, I guess, because I've been through playing with rookies or winning a championship or struggling in the early parts of the split and then making a comeback. So I feel like I've been a bit through everything with a lot of experience, and I feel like I'm a very talkative person. I can connect with people pretty easily, and I think that was something that lacked in this team, I believe. And I feel like already my presence has been better and people just feel better in general. Also give them like a motivation boost, because they know I joined to win, not necessarily to just not make playoffs or barely make playoffs. For me, making worlds is like really important. So I told them, if I'm joining, you guys must like try hard, and I want to see you guys give your all, you know, and I think we can make it work. So for me, it will work. I don't see why it wouldn't, and I believe they trust me as much as I trust them. So for me, it's just a really good environment now, and just some seriousness plus some fun.
I mean, I didn't know Nisky that well personally before he came to Mad Lions, but like seeing him like play, seeing him like interact with all our like players, right? Even with me and stuff like this. I mean, he just seems to fit like really well, because he's a friendly guy, like he's outgoing, he likes to try new things, right? And he's really open. So yeah, I think he just really fits well in our like culture, because we always like to have fun and stuff like this. And yeah, I think he just fits really well into our team.
Well, it showed yesterday on the Rift with Nisky and Matt. They got their first win of the split. It was over Vitality, and SK was able to best out Team BDS as well. So we have two winners in this matchup. Febiven, about this Nisky change coming into Mad Lions, as said, a wonderful first day. How real is the Honeymoon buff?
The Honeymoon buff, it's real, obviously. When you are an established team and you take one player out, you take another one in. And the guy has a lot of energy, you know, like he may be playing better, he may be enabling his teammates more, so it's like, it can be a huge positive factor.
And as a follow-up, we heard from Elyoya in the interview specifically that where REEKR, what is to be expected, that he couldn't call as much as maybe someone like Nisky. How much will that help elevate Mad Lions, the fact that now Elyoya doesn't have to think about that, and Nisky has been on every stage in the world, right?
Well, obviously, if you are playing very good, but you're also communicating very good, then you have the, in my opinion, you have the perfect player, right? I think it's very hard to communicate very well and play very well, because it takes away from your mechanical skill, your focus, and if you have the right balance, that which Nisky has, he's like, well, hearing him talk, he has like the really, really good mindset. So it's like very, I get goosebumps listening to that guy.
Awesome.
I feel like a lot of the times people forget that the responsibility falls on to only one person. In this case, Elyoya, to carry the team forward, right? So the decision-making falls on him. Him pressing his buttons to perfection falls on him. But right now, having Nisky, who not only knows how to play the game, because he has the veterans and the years right behind him, but now he also shares responsibility with Elyoya. I think you mentioned again, Febi, yesterday, if I'm not wrong, you're like, if I'm fed and I'm playing in the mid lane, which is the most prominent side on the map, right? You're dead smack in the middle of the rift. If I'm fed, I can call for things. I can make more decisive engagements. I can actually tell my jungler where to be for me. In this case, maybe Rika was not bringing this on the table, but we know Nisky, the way he's a veteran, the way he leads inside a game.
And I think you bring up a great point in that a great first showing off them, but it's not always going to be the case that he's going to be fed, right? So what else did you see in that game, and where should we put our expectations, you think, for the Mad Lions?
I feel like a lot of the question marks were around that bot lane for Mad Lions, right? Yes, the mid lane was a little bit found out towards the end, but like it was mainly about the bot lane, the 2v2, getting caught, maybe dying. And this is where I'm going to throw a question mark in general for Mad Lions. I'm like, even though Nisky is a great leader, even though Nisky is a great mid laner, you can't necessarily press someone else's buttons towards the bot side of the map, right? So I feel like the bot lane needs to also step up.
When we look at SK yesterday, they also opened up the season with a win over BDS. Gilius, in fact, stole a couple of objectives. That always helps. I know you're quite familiar with SK. How was their first showing to you?
I've worked at this point for a year and a half with SK. I've seen bad iterations of the team, and this is probably the best iteration of the team that I've personally seen. I feel this looked pretty shaky at the very beginning if we take into consideration the fact that Jezu and Sertuss, they're basically rookies into playing in front of a crowd, right? And even though Sertuss tried to play his style that made him famous, especially in ERLs roaming the map, there was a lot of shakiness with missing a lot of skill shots, Jezu not engaging at the right time. But I felt like the veterans from SK, Jenax, Gilius and Treatz performed very well. I felt like, yes, the early game was a little bit shaky, but they found it later on.
Yeah, he's the first guy on stage. What are your impressions of Gilius overall? I know you've probably played against him and known him for a long time.
Gilius, well, I would say me and Gilius are very good friends. We have like very similar personality. We're both goofy. I have a lot of respect for the guy. He is very hardworking, and he's just extremely funny. And I really hope that one day he will actually win the trophy, and then I don't know, this guy will be so happy. It will be such a blast to see.
I actually have a fun fact. We're all sitting on a sofa, and Gilius turns around to Sertuss, and he's like, "You know what's the deal with me? All my mid laners have peaked playing with me, so possibly expect Sertuss to peak here as well."
That's pretty funny. And it's going to be an interesting matchup to see. Sertuss, who has been around for a while, but I think we're waiting for him to make that big step forward when it comes to those big matchups, right? How do you see this mid lane matchup going, knowing that Nisky, of course, has the wealth of experience coming into that one?
Yeah, I mean, probably Nisky is going to be taking the more, dominant side, and he's probably going to be leading the game from mid lane, because Sertuss is like, I actually watch this guy. He streams a lot. I watch a lot of his streams. He has double account in Challenger, 1,000 plus points on both accounts. He's very, very good mechanically. However, I am not sure what else he brings to the team, because I haven't. This guy is very new, and I haven't played against him that much. But yeah, I'm expecting Nisky to kind of lead from mid lane and.
We saw it yesterday a little bit as well. I think Perkz didn't have the best time there, not necessarily getting outplayed, but just Nisky had great control of the lane, right? He had his teleport timings down. He was able to influence the map where needed, and he seemed to be in control. Is that how you throw a spanner in the works, knowing that this is a new team for SK? Throw on a curveball in the picks and bans, maybe?
Yeah, potentially. Or you just try to outplay the opponent, right? Again, I feel Mad Lions have their question marks towards the bot side of the map. SK have the question marks towards that early game, which is a little bit shaky. I feel like, in general, both teams were not exactly 100% decisive in the early game. So I feel anything can happen. Now, I don't know,
fight.
It's the start of the split. I don't know if there's going to be any curveballs. I'm sorry. It's the meta, man. What can I say?
I want to see SK playing for mid actively, because I feel like when you play aggressive through mid, you can actually decide what you want to do on everywhere. You can go into enemy jungle, you can go bot, you can go top. So I want to see pushing mid laner, roaming with his jungle, with his support, and being active, and not just sit under your tower and farm.
I like it. The homework coming in for SK to not let Mad Lions dictate the game the way they want to. Let's head into the cast with Nymaera and Quickshot.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. The players are busy sitting down. We're jumping into picks and bans. And something that Nymaera just won't shut up about was these two teams facing off during the spring season. And they were very interesting games, to say the least.
They were, because these are teams which, of course, maybe weren't our top teams, but they had incredible matchups against each other. Yes, it did go 2-0 to SK over Mad Lions. It made that playoffs race incredibly close coming into the last couple of days of the split, but they had games which went over 50 minutes. They had comebacks, they had drama. They were genuinely very, very intriguing matches to watch. Hope to see another one today.
We'll find out. It's about time for SK to take on Mad. Let's take a look at picks and bans. Of course, Mad Lions yesterday were able to come back against Vitality. They lost the early game somewhat, and then in kind of classic Mad Lions style, winning team fights while behind in gold. Now, it wasn't a significant deficit. That core identity is still there. Yes! The cat is bad. Yuumi is out the gates.
That's a good start to any draft. Of course, Yuumi is not exactly the most aggressive champion in the early game and does a really good job of keeping people alive, which is exactly what we don't want. More action, of course. And speaking of that action, yeah, it was mainly through team fights where Mad Lions found their action yesterday, but that's not actually dissimilar to how SK won their own game. They too fell behind. That was a bit more of a significant lead on that side, but that one's actually also very in keeping with classic SK, at least from this spring. Both these teams finding those ways later into the game to win the 5v5s.
Well, will the draft help them in the early game? That is the question. Very different bans this time around. Kalista LeBlanc followed by Mad Lions. Yuumi Twisted Fate removed from the pool. We're looking for one more to go. A lot of junglers are still open and available. The pool hasn't been hit at all.
But the reason they haven't been hit is because these are all nameplate bans. This is Sertuss being that LeBlanc player. It is Jezu, the person who got the pentakill on Kalista in spring. And on the other side, of course, Nisky, a very prolific Twisted Fate player. A lot of these champions are more about the players on the Rift rather than the accepted meta from the first few days of play.
Well, there we go. One of the power picks that has kind of surpassed the nameplate champions. Lucian removed from the pool. Big smiles there from Jinx, sorry, Genax, as he's hovering that top hinge. And of course, we'll pivot away, I think. I wonder if anyone will look at the likes of Zeri or similar. Wukong will be the first pick here.
This is actually a little interesting because on day one, we saw a lot of teams leaving Wukong through the red side and just saying, actually, we'd rather pick up something like the Yuumi, like the Zeri. You can take that Wukong, but we're happy to take something like a bot lane power pick instead. SK actually say, well, no, we'd rather have that Wukong. And yes, while there is some flexibility with the Wukong, you can technically still put it bot lane with something like a Senna or very rarely into top lane. It shows your hand a little bit more and leaves you a little more constrained by a first pick.
I mean, I think we saw that a lot from the Mad Lions when they were using that Wukong bottom lane. This will be the first Wukong for Gilius of the year. Has not played the champion. I'm taking a look at his career stats. It's definitely not high up. In fact, this is Gilius's first ever Wukong professional game.
No time like the present to pick it up. Very strong champion.
Viego as well as Zeri. So that's not a surprise. And of course, with that Yuumi gone, Twitch will not be the answer. We've seen that working. What do you think of Jinx?
So I think already with this draft, hey, I get to cast my main. That's fun. So we have the Wukong locked in. I think the immediate response from Mad Lions is a fun one because if you are diving into a Viego and a Zeri and the Zeri escapes that initial engage, they just kite you forever. That unlocks that first kill. Means that Viego gets resets. Wukong needs something to help them go forwards. Having that Ahri, being able to follow up with the Spirit Rush, the Jinx ult also being incredible.
And then getting excited and running forward.
Excited. That helps you go through that combo, but you're diving into something else which is a bit more flavor of the patch. The Swain. Swain makes an absolute mess of low-range, diving, brawling champions. This Wukong is going to have a pretty horrid time.
Oh, difficult situation. And of course, still some room for wiggling here. Now, how do Mad Lions want to target the bans? Removing options for Treatz, maybe. Treatz and Kaiser are the players that I'm the most interested to watch. I think the impact they have for their team is actually fairly parallel. They are both playmakers. They are both go-forward kind of guys. And if they get their hands on initiating champions, then obviously they'll be unleashed.
Well, there's a lot to be said about kiting in this game already. I think that's going to be one of the most important things to start drafting in. When you have to start kiting champions like the Viego and the Swain on the side of SK, that can be quite important. Heck, actually, if this Ahri wasn't locked in, you start questioning whether you see the LPL brand come out. We actually saw that today, saying, yeah, put in a Ryalize, that champion can't function, but SK are going to have to find other ways to deal with the ability of Mad Lions to just rule this short-range movement speed, chase you down kind of Zeri Swain damage combo.
The boar is gone. The boar is gone.
Okay.
Could have been one of those top lane options, which I've seen a couple times as well. Removing that from the pool. And Ornn will be the final ban. Ornn definitely a flavor of the weekend top laner. Well, Jenax, will he just run Aatrox? He's done so many times in the past, or not? That's what we're going to find out. And now, the more difficult challenge, explain to me what the comps want to do is they now start to lock in these final picks with Jayce to combo. So you got a lot of poke there, actually.
So Mad Lions almost certainly want to escape the initial engage, play around slightly increased range, or at least in the frontliners, keep distance from the Wukong in particular, unlock a reset for Viego, start thinking about that the extended fight after that point. SK need to do one of two things. Either find a way to punish this extended range with something, I mean, actually something like Vel'Koz wouldn't have been awful in that case. You can do poke for poke. Or you find a way to double down your engage, get that first kill yourself, and get your Jinx and the Ahri setting up with resets. We have resets on both sides. That first kill and securing that becomes incredibly important with the 4 champions on either side locked in.
I do think the range advantage is pretty heavily on the side of Mad Lions. If they are able to drop some evil eyes from the sky or lasers through a wall, that'll open up those opportunities a little bit quicker, and Jenax will be locking in another tank. This time it's going to be the Sion.
And I look at the Sion, and I like it if you're even, and you can actually hold that door closed for a little while and maybe allow Wukong a bit more freedom to find that engage. I think Wukong's going to be very important for SK. But then now you're looking at suddenly having Viego stuns coming through and the never move from Swain, the hooks. Whoever is stood first on the front line from SK is going to have a really, really hard time staying alive. I think Mad Lions, as long as they manage to, again, escape the first hit, they're very happy with how this has gone for me.
Do you think that this kind of poke-esque composition from Mad Lions is a little bit more versatile than those traditional, like, Jayce, Nidalee, Ezreal type comps? It feels like there's a few more beefier options. It feels like there's some initiation tools. So I wouldn't go it's a full-blown poke comp.
No, it's not. I think particularly when you have some more engage options, something like a Nautilus turns a poke comp from a poke comp into actually someone's just dead and it's a pick comp at that point. You use your range and put it onto someone where you're guaranteed to hit your skill shots. That's one playstyle you can go around. The Swain, obviously very disruptive in another way. They need to find themselves into a position though where again, they understand the various playstyles and make sure that SK can't slide through into big explosive team fights if they can't keep their distance.
Thing that I absolutely love about the beginning of a new season on a brand new patch is just how varied the team compositions are. It is another game with wildly different champions. And we get to watch Sertuss when he's 1-0 Ahri playing it again on stage. It's SK versus Mad. Right, let's take a look at who's going to be able to get any sort of advantage early. Both team compositions have so many tools available to them that if they are proactive with a gold lead, they can just keep their opponent down. You know, whether it's SK looking to find those picks, find those initiations, or whether it's Mad Lions finding the poke and then some of the resets. So tools are there.
But that's obviously very important. There's something more important to me though. I think something very important about Sertuss. He's actually gone to the FLICKR school of skin synergy, chosen to go 0 skins on the Ahri classic skin. I think that's a point with them already.
Let's judge keystones and itemization because you are a strongly opinionated individual.
Yes. So that's the teleport on the Ahri. With the durability patch, we've seen less Ignite come through, and that
You
means
sound
that you are, to an extent, because I feel like Ahri, much in the same way of something like LeBlanc, could very much get kill pressure around about that level 3, level 4 mark. If you manage to land a couple of electrocute combos, particularly on your third combo, you get to a point where suddenly Ignite comes in, that's someone dead, that's you starting to snowball. You're going to track them as they go a little bit further in, though. That's when things get more interesting to me. I think the teleport's fine if you think that actually the durability change is not going to help you so much. I want to see exactly how much damage they're going to bring to the table, though, whether they can start snowballing through itemization.
Okay, and that of course means Sertuss needs to get through the Swain monster in front of him. And of course in the bottom lane, another onslaught into the Zeri. We're seeing the Zeri a number of times this weekend, a number of different opponents run into it. Jinx, Rakan right now being just encouraged to not come too close, as Kaiser was waiting in the bush. Elyoya is going to step forward straight onto a ward.
Straight onto a ward, and it's one thing we tracked last game, saying, you know, actually, level 1 wards early on can be very important, just making sure that you're have that information to play around Elyoya. So this is what Elyoya does every game. Did this so much in spring. Would get through that first camp, get towards the enemy jungle, make sure they were playing up front into the enemy jungle, but Treatz and Jezu with the bot lane push, make sure he can't stay for anything more than just the chickens.
I really like that. Just threatening, just showing their presence. So if Elyoya didn't get the call, if he stuck on a little longer, SK were already in position to challenge it, which I appreciate. If you look at the minimap, however, top lane slowly pushing towards Jenax, and Nisky shoved all the way in. So both those lanes right now using their kits to their advantage.
But going back to, of course, what that means in terms of shoving in those lanes, different places, it's really not that much change from Mad Lions. As we were saying, Elyoya always loves to play like this. And Mad's actually the team which didn't make the change. They made the changes, rather. They made that change in the mid lane for Nisky. It's SK that wanted to play around that synergy.
Max range charm. Sidesteps the knock up. 200 hit points. 110. He's going to be able to escape for now. Nisky's able to escape with a ghost only.
So,
would Ignite have killed him?
Maybe an Ignite, a couple of flashes.
I think it was down to 110. I think it was down to 110. So
it's good to go close, but this is one of those times where you think, gosh, you think about it, but either way, it's still going to be Nisky having to play a little bit back in lane. It's the lane pushed in, and Elyoya has to be called to cover.
Well, Nisky obviously doesn't want to lose the experience. He's able to pick up a couple of those creeps. It looked like it could have been a much bigger win there for Sertuss if Nisky had fully backed.
It would have been huge. It would have been huge because at that point, you know, you're missing out because it's the ghost, of course. It's gonna be would have been a huge wave lost. It would have been XP up. It would have been a ultimate hunter stack. There's so many things which can start snowballing around that, and a soul AP damage on your team. Something like an Ahri actually can do significant damage if you get rolling early, but SK not able to get that going just yet.
And I got to give some props here to Jezu and Treatz. Spring was a tough time.
Difficult.
Difficult spring season. The reason that I quite like these first 4 minutes is the moment they are able to leave that lane, they shove it up well. They're going to be relatively close on CS. Actually, it looks like Jezu did drop a few there, so he is down 8 CS. It's not significant right now, but I do appreciate the way that they are interacting both with Gilius as well as Sertuss, showing that team play. Jenax does not have access to the ultimate, so he can't run Armut down. And again, he's farming up perfectly well, you know, holding his ground, being bullied, as you'd expect, from that Mercurial Hammer.
Okay.
Here's going to be the first big invade.
But it's also vision on the invade. Kaiser, Unforgiven, they attack that. Charm lands.
Knocker pulled backwards. The guy is dropped, and Kaiser's going to pull himself forward to that dredge line. There's just not enough damage yet. Jezu, zap over the wall onto King Kaiser, forcing the flash away. And there wasn't enough damage onto a single target for either team to get a kill.
Okay, but then let's look at what's just been burned there, because SK, I mean, there's a teleport back to the top lane from Jenax, but they didn't blow anything else. You've lost both summoners now onto Kaiser. That's going to be the Nautilus, which potentially can be preyed upon a little further into this game. And SK, at least they managed to avert that play. And now, we were talking about yesterday, both these teams struggling in the early game. Now, actually, they're both kind of even against each other.
Yeah, but not for lack of trying. We've
No.
seen a couple of attempts. That's a big knock up there onto Unforgiven. He's still going to be able to hop over the wall. Gilius does not have the Cyclone available, and Sertuss has not left the mid lane. Dragon's taking some time to go down. It's got Gilius try. The answer is not today. So Mad Lions pick up the first neutral objective. It is still very, very close across the board. I think Sertuss with a minor CS advantage thanks to that gank earlier. And so far, I think both teams are going to be pretty happy with this. Both teams are going to have options the later this game goes. So it does come down to who's got vision, who pushes their lanes well, and who creates opportunities.
And what it also means as well, we saw this a lot in spring, it comes down to late game execution and team fights. We get to see these players really start showing off on a mechanical level, and for me, that's just really entertaining to watch. So now we're starting to go put the onus onto, you got to play out these fights well. It's not about just playing through your advantages and choosing the right fights, it's about performing them well.
It is, and of course, I once again think that there are slightly safer options on the side of Mad Lions because you've got that non-committal poke where you can try to fish, get some damage down before you decide to throw out that depth charge or follow up with the dredge line or commit with the Heartbreaker. I mean, Mad Lions can at least err on the side of caution. For SK, however, once Sion presses R, everybody has to go with him. So they really need to be certain when they pick the fight, and that'll be in their favor. I mean, one dragon is secured, no towers, no plates, we're even on gold. It is another sort of just standard 12-11 opening.
It is, and I think there is going to be a question about, you know, if you're going to start pushing that ultimate button on that side, and you start pulling off the really big engages, who has to start meeting that from Mad Lions? Because sometimes you have to body block it. You just have to take that train and just say, okay, cool, I've got to be the person taking this damage. And I don't know who's going to do that until you get to a couple of items on someone like that Swain, who maybe can walk up, tank the first bit, maybe at that point has a Zhonya's, or actually Gargoyle Stoneplate is something sometimes built on the Swain. If you're going to very heavy 5v5s, you just become so hard to kill. But up until you get to second, third items, it can be quite difficult to do that. Mad Lions, until they get their front line in order, I don't know whether they want to be dealing with the Sion too heavily.
No, and of course, when I take a look at this movement around the map, I feel like Gilius and Elyoya have kind of headed to similar areas at roughly the same time. It's already engaged there, knocked up. And
there we go.
Unstoppable onslaught going forward. Can't curve the bullet, but he will get Armut's flash.
They found their front line.
They found
it's the wall.
Manages to help Armut escape, but flashless for the next potential engage. Jezu wasn't, he didn't really hesitate too long once he saw an opportunity to catch out Armut, and he'll be very happy. That is still a small win. It is SK Gaming with a 500 gold lead, and the eye is in the back pocket of Elyoya, so he can balance that out very, very quickly. And once again, we are just in one of these states where we're waiting for a big objective. 2 minutes to Dragon fight. Do either team fancy a shot? There's some deep vision from Mad. At least it's in the river, not into the jungle of SK.
So we have a little bit of time now to see the setup coming in. This
no, we
is
don't.
one of them.
No, we don't. No, we do not. But that was a forgivable mistake because you got out with your life. Really fancy footwork. It still cost his flash.
That's the dash into the wall. It does cost that flash. And, you know, we've been talking a lot about how these fights are going to be quite explosive from SK. They want to start landing that engage very, very well. If you don't have that extra degree of safety to play around, of course that works in SK's favor. Did they blow much for it? I mean, you don't have the Ahri ult now. You don't have the Rakan ult. Actually wonder, not having those combat stats, whether that will not favor them in the short term.
Yeah, I mean, there's still enough tankiness to be put in front of some of those damage dealers. But I think for Jezu really has to be aware of how the fight is playing out, where either the shock blasts are coming from, potential flanks from that Swain, Viego, hell, even long-range lasers from Zeri. So there's a lot of threats to deal. It just comes down to positioning and execution. What is kind of good about this happening on day 2, these are two teams that have more questions to answer than expectations to hope for.
Okay, with a minute to Dragon, of course, got to see how all of this works up. But again, both these teams looking to... Again, these teams missed playoffs last split, and they've taken different approaches to Summer to say, okay, well, what are we going to do about that? Obviously, we want to do better. Mad Lions made a change. SK chose to stick to their guns. They were close last split. And you can see actually in this early game, continuing to be competitive with each other so far. And we have to track, of course, now where that improvement leads them.
Close, but close at the bottom of the table. Both of these teams are looking for improvements. Oh, don't clap the clone. It was caught
clone combat
by that dredge line. Gilius was able to escape very easily. And every time we look at the top lane, Armut is smacking Gen X with a hammer, but they are still even on CS. Crucially though, he has held Gen X back. Teleport is available for Armut as the Herald takes a lot of damage from that mid lane.
It does, and it does two things. One, gives gold to the Swain. That's important. We talked about that front line, and no, you're not always going to have brickwork and masonry in front of you to block the engage. Giving that to the Swain can help.
Oh, knock up, channeled onto the dredge line, the quickness. So much damage coming out there from Nisky as he backs away. And SK, they respect it and do not chase into the corridor.
And that's why we were saying, hey, with those ultimates blown, what does SK do about fighting Dragon? Comes up a little bit afterwards, and they find that angle after the Dragon's already down, and they can't quite land it. Right. So, right, we have, finally, resets coming through. 2 Dragons coming in from Mad Lions. And this is something that they didn't actually do massively well last split, because last split, they would often take those early heralds and they'd get themselves gold advantages, and then they'd kind of let those dragons go by the wayside. This is time going towards those more late game objectives and saying, oh, okay, no time to talk about that.
Dun, 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 dun. No flash, no ulti. Sertuss is low. Sertuss is dead. First blood picked up by Mad Lions Elyoya. Treatz will not step into the chop. Heartbreaker goes out, hops over the wall, blast cones to safety, and he does survive for now. Sauron's eye cannot get the final blow. Mad Lions first kill.
Slick escape, but Mad Lions punishing Sertuss without the flash, without the Spirit Rush. Everfrost doesn't get much done.
Cheeky. Gilius definitely got hot fingers when it comes to that smite fight. Uses the blast cone to escape to safety. And Mad Lions, yes, they are minorly in the lead. It's definitely not something you should worry about right now. The 2 dragons, however, that is another potential win condition.
Yeah, as we were saying, it's actually not something that Matt did a lot in the spring. They'd rather the gold, and they do find themselves some here at this point, get themselves making some aggressive plays, but at this point, I think actually that might have been a ward spotting out Wukong on the bot side, seeing that recall. Mad Lions have the green light to go in, and they capitalize.
Well, we're going to find out green light on whether or not that was the earliest first blood of the year. In spring, latest, thank you. I definitely got that opposite. The latest first blood of spring was 12 minutes and 17 seconds. Mr. Statsman, what was this one? He is busy checking and will validate potentially the second latest, slowing things down a lot. And actually, it does remind me of the SK Mad Lions games from spring. There were periods of inactivity, shall we say. And then things got really interesting in the team fights.
No,
I just
think they're being very considerate. You know, they're giving us all here a chance to catch up breath and to consider the deeper meaning of this game and where all of these objectives are coming up. We don't have any time for any of this mindless fighting. Everything must be considered. And right now, considering some invades into the bot side.
Well, take a look at the engage here. Gilius throws out the Cyclone, but the re-engage from Mad seems to be better for now. Super Mega Death Rocket flies in, does not find a target, but finally the monkey is down. Gen X hits a wall and cannot engage the fight, and Sertuss is forced to flash for his life. Mad Lions are not done yet. Hopping over the wall, Armut picks up another, and that will be a near ace. Gen X escaped with his life. He's running for now. Mad Lions, you have secured the honor of the latest first blood of 2022. Came in 2 seconds slower than the spring record. And just moments after that, they find 4 more kills.
They find 4 more kills, and that actually means, you know, we've seen some slower games. This one is starting to be a little bit more fast-paced. And how does this come about? We talked a little bit about the 5v5s and about how actually if the front line is there from SK, things get a little difficult. You're looking for the first kills, but Sion's not here at the start of the fight. It's the Wukong, and it's not like you're catching the Zeri to stop your front line going down. Mad Lions find the right place with the right members at the right time.
And of course, when you look at that Mad Lions composition, they really do need some time to focus down their targets. Yes, there is some burst damage, but there was like sort of 3-on-1 there to play out, but Zeri hadn't joined the fight just yet. Target selection will be very crucial for Mad Lions to make this comp work, but they have a history and they have a lot of trust from fans. They've demonstrated that they can. But in the space of 2 minutes now, Nymaera, that gold lead has blown up to 3,000. 5 kills on the board. Still no tower secured, but we're 30 seconds away from Infernal. And I really don't think SK should challenge it.
No, and one of the reasons is, I mean, we saw this in the last fight too, is the first item. Look at that. That's a Rylai's onto that Swain. It's got that HP component. It's not even a mythic first way in. And I'm looking at this now, and I think, yeah, if you don't get that engage again, it's going to be very difficult for SK. See how it works for both objectives currently up.
I didn't know Malrang and Jankos are engaged, because that's what I was looking at when you mentioned that. While you were looking at the items on your screen, a graphic did just pop up. This is a match of the week at the end of the day. Could you draw attention again to the itemization?
Yeah, someone done it. It's okay, cool. Maybe I just really like jewelry. Maybe that's it.
Also, let's take a look at Sertuss. 0-2-0 on the Ahri. Decided to go for Everfrost and Lucy Boots. Happy with that? Fine with that?
Well, maybe less said about that, the better. I think in this game, this wasn't a game where Sertuss actually got snowballed when you sat at 0-2. This is the concession build of, look, I'm already behind. I just need to do what my teammates need of me now. You're probably waiting on that Jinx to do a lot of work, and they're going to have to do it pretty soon. It looks like Mad Lions are going to start forcing that issue. They're in the mid lane.
Call of the Forge Guard from the middle lane. It's available to Jenax, but Mad Lions scattered as
no, it's
you
not.
should.
He's playing Sion. He's not playing Ornn.
I've been watching too much on. Thank you. Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. The unstoppable onslaught is the correct words I was looking for. But he didn't pull the trigger, didn't go in. The Mad Lions, they didn't get the tower either. I mean, 17 minutes in, no towers have fallen yet.
So as much as like we joke about that, actually, this is one of the reasons why you'd love to have that, because someone has to go straight into that front line. You just can't get that backline access, and I wonder if that's why SK is starting to feel a little bit more tentative. They're not being decisive about his engages, because if you're not locking down that Zeri who has that mythic, if you're not able to shut out the Swain who got that extra gold and is now on 2 items, SK are not probably fancying that 5v5.
SK really need to put on their blue suede shoes and dance around any long-range skill shots, because Mad Lions as a team are always going to be quite controlled and calculated in their play. So if they land some poke and some damage, you can bet your bottom dollar that Elyoya or Unforgiven will chase forward for the follow-up fight. If they can get someone 60% chipped away, then the follow-up can come from the Jayce, the Viego, the Kaiser, the Nautilus. Right now, it is SK looking for opportunities. They're not overextending, but they are playing very defensively.
They are playing defensively, but I wonder if that's going to work against them, because you've got 3 minutes on that soul. It's an infernal soul. When you are that long range, you get to apply that very regularly from Mad Lion's side of things. I think if you give over that infernal soul, game is about as good as about as good as done at that point. So you don't have that much time to make a big play. This is okay. It's a gold bounty. It's that objective, but is that enough? To me, not so sure about it. Mad Lions fishing once more.
Ghost was thrown out by Jenax, and at least threatening some sort of re-engage. If you look at the vision, Mad Lions did not have any deeper wards just above SK's position. So I think wisely backing away, don't step into the darkness. It's scary, don't go alone. And Unforgiven will finally be able to knock over tower for the Lions. We're approaching 20 minutes. There we go, third tower has now fallen. So now the map's gonna get open, and now teams really need to be aware of what they're doing.
They're returning the favor, smiting away that blue buff. And again, this is the kind of the collateral art, because we see the domino waterfall of towers falling down of Mad Lions across the map. And after that, because you get to push in, you get to go into the enemy jungle, you take those jungle camps. That's XP, that's gold away. It's just hampering SK's ability to, again, stay on the radar in terms of gold. Yeah, they got some objective bounties, but they're losing control over a lot of other gold they wish they could be getting.
Yeah, I mean, 1 minute 45 until the Infernal Soul. Combine that soul with the 4 damage dealing champions on the side of Mad Lions. What that leads me to say, SK cannot concede it. They definitely do not need to play this game on Nightmare mode. It's already on Ultra Hard. But how do they do this? If we look at itemization, mythics across the board there. 2 items for both Armut as well as Nisky. Making his way there for Unforgiven. Maybe needs a moment or two longer. It's 1 minute and 10 seconds, and it's Mad Lions with the first move. They've already pushed some vision into that bottom area.
Yeah, and you know, the obviously very obvious item power spikes from Mad Lions. See if they can use them on Jenax.
Well, not going to be able to.
That is actually so sad, because now you don't have that unstoppable onslaught to...
The Call of the Forge God?
Yeah, the Call of the Forge God.
Worked really, really well.
Yeah, you don't have that.
Manages to get him to safety. That is is a big engage from Gilius. The follow-up is fantastic. SK Gaming connect with everything. Do they have the damage? Kaiser is down. Gilius started it and ended it.
Okay, so who needs a Sion to start engaging for you? They do their own stuns, and Gilius finds the pick.
30 seconds before the dragon. It cannot be understated how important that
Love
was.
this. Look at this vision toggle here. Unforgiven. Trying to scout around, but you can see the vision control they're looking. They're not content with that single pick. Kaiser will be back for the dragon. So Mad Lions, they're playing it patiently so far. Elyoya, though.
Oh, that ultra shock laser is so frustrating to deal with. The Swain eyes are being dropped down. Mad Lions splitting themselves up. Not to be a group target. Elyoya going north, Unforgiven, going south. He's got Flash Cleanse and his ultimate 2. Here comes Kaiser, dredge lining his way in. SK are surrounded, SK are flanked, SK are low, SK are in so much trouble. Gen-X tries to buy some time, as all of a sudden the damage is going onto Nisky. He's low, he's flashed for his life, and he's not down just yet. The first to fall is Treatz. Mad Lions have managed to crush SK. For a moment, it looked like they were in trouble, but they find 4 and regain control.
Oh, and SK, they needed to fight it, and well, they did turn up, but turned up with half a bank of worth of gold compared to Mad Lions, really, it feels like. And Nisky, Unforgiven, just put them to the sword.
Delayed ace. You have to go back a minute. SK Gaming were caught in such a difficult scenario. If they start the dragon, it's easy to get poked down. If they don't start the dragon, Mad Lions get soul. So, you know, what do you pick?
What do you pick? And actually, even at the end of it, we can revisit something that we said all the way back and say, actually, Mad Lions, this isn't just a poke comp.
Yeah.
They can do more with it. Nisky, Unforgiven, find themselves on a flank, and Jinx gets a little bit close to that, but credit to Mad Lions in this fight. They don't actually stay that slow. They actually say, yeah, you know what? We can take this fight. It's in multiple directions. You make sure that SK can't find themselves singular targets to focus down. And Nisky, this is why we said the Swain with gold was really important. That extra gold means that he lives in this kind of fight. And Unforgiven gets to get so much extra ability to start chasing down, stacking up that move speed, and doing, of course, a heck of a lot of damages. This patch of Zeri does.
I mean, so tough. SK found such a great engage at such a good time. But unfortunately, because of the nature of the composition, they could not do anything after the fact, right? They get flanked, they get surrounded, they're down. The Infernal Soul, they're down 8,000 gold. Just look down the scoreboards of Mad Lions. The only inter is Kaiser. I mean, 115, and everyone else, 203, 204, 207. The reason I want you to look at it is 8 kills, 7 kills, 6 kills. It has just been about the team play because the 20 minutes of laning phase did not really procure any kill advantages.
And it does come down to largely that execution in those team fights. And yeah, there's some setup around that saying, actually, you know, it's about that vision, it's about the angles you choose. But Mad Lions have bluntly just outfought SK. They found the right fights and they've executed on them well. I seriously want to praise Elyoya again. Even in a difficult spring for the team, Elyoya was one of those players, which I know that, of course, Cadril was a really, really big advocate for, saying, you know, this guy is still one of, if not the best jungler in the league, very much up there. I think Elyoya's had a great game so far, continually being at the right place, threatening with resets, making sure that this Viego is being such a factor in Mad Lions' dominant game so far.
Now, Mad Lions will be looking to push in for the win. It did have a little bit of weaker mid-games during the course of spring than what we're used to seeing. But with the lead that they have, with the tools that they have, specifically the poke, and we saw G2 yesterday? Today? Firing through the walls, playing dodgeball, it was yesterday, with that Zoe Zeri combination. You can do exactly the same thing with Jayce and Zeri. Hell, you can even throw down the Visions of the Empire. There's just so many tools that SK have to deal with while being down 10,000 gold. It's a difficult situation to see, and it's exactly what we said in draft. Once one team gets ahead, they can maintain that lead because of the way it'll play out.
And you're really waiting for mistakes, you're waiting for an overextension maybe. At this point, you're looking at Mad Lions to play it by the book and close. Of course, you've got that Baron, you've got that Soul, you're in a very dominant position. The question is, okay, what can you do to make sure that the game's going to be closed out without really any issues. They haven't managed to break the base. It's the one thing they need to do next, and that's maybe, I'm not going to say last chance, but probably is just about close enough to it for SK. Trying to pull apart our Mad Lions. If they do try and commit on multiple lanes maybe to try and crack those inhibitor turrets, that's the next place I can really see them looking for something. Especially if that happens before, of course, the Elder comes up. That's always a fun flipping material.
If you're going to play this super safe, debut weekend on stage, you know, bouncing back from a very difficult end of spring when, remember, Mad Lions were back-to-back champions last year. I do not mind that slower tempo on the opening weekend. What I do like, though, is Mad Lions haven't really played slow. Where there was opportunities to fight or to dive, to pick a battle around the engagements, they've definitely been comfortable.
You know what it reminds me of is way back in earlier seasons of League, people would used to call people aggressive players or defensive players, and I believe it was Bjergsen that said there aren't like aggressive and defensive players. There are good and bad players, because the good players just see the aggressive moves you can take. Feels like Mad Lions in this game. They haven't, again, they've seen those aggressive plays and they've taken them. They're making sure that they're using the opportunities given to them.
What I really like, though, is it's on a level of control and coordination. Another fantastic initiation, but where's the damage? Where's the damage? Finally, Nisky's going low, but buys time with the Golden Globe, and nobody else has been injured. SK Gaming have been squashed by the wallets of Mad Lions, and for one last time, GenX is the last man standing. It's taken out under his Nexus turret. That is the ace for Mad Lions. 15 kills to 2. Infernal Soul, and it was a slow start to the race, but it was a crushing end to the game.
And it was as you were saying, Mad Lions took a hold of that lead and they just didn't let it go. They've taken all the fights they needed to. They're going to take a Nexus on top.
Mad Lions open Summer 2022 with a 2-0 record. That was a very clear, we were winning until we weren't type of game. Because either team could have made that statement. There was multiple proactive plays. I thought Gilius' engage from behind, flashing across the river, was exquisite. It was followed up so well by Treatz into the knockup. But ultimately, they just couldn't get to the Mad Lions. They didn't have control of the Rift.
And you know, it's Mad Lions walking away with, actually, considering they had a 3-0 week to end out spring, 5-game win streak on top of that. And then SK sadly not able to match that themselves and having to now go back to the drawing board a little bit.
Yeah, for SK Gaming, a couple of moments that were good, but the Mad Lions were in control and were able to deal with pretty much everything. I think it's still fascinating to me that no towers were taken by 19.5 minutes into the game.
Yeah, I wonder really why that was the case, because, you know, you could see all these heralds going down. I wonder if it was because, of course, that first herald went straight down mid and it was like, okay, actually it's just about the gold rather than just crushing through territory.
Well, I'm not certain. We'll definitely have to watch that one back, because the other game was an interesting one, I think. If you're on Twitter, at LEC, we're talking about Kia Player of the Game. Your nominees are Elyoya, Nisky, and Unforgiven. This is really hard because literally every single member of this team did what they needed to do. So many of the kills were, you know, as a group, so it's very, very high kill shares for them.
I feel like I would go with Elyoya personally. It's close. There's going to be a lot of personal preference in there. I think Elyoya has continued to be one of our top junglers in Europe, even through, of course, that more disappointing split for the whole roster in spring. But coming back off for 2-1, and look to see if they can seal it out with a perfect week.
Yeah, I mean, look, good start here for Mad Lions. I think some of the opening games this summer, a little bit slower than we're expecting. Could be the heat getting to everybody. I can't see. Is that a Big Mac on stage?
It is indeed a Big Mac on stage. Thanks for the punch, Rev. Mac, thank you so much for joining me after this game. What's your take on the first 2 games from the team? Are you satisfied with what the boys are performing?
Yeah. Wait, let me think back to yesterday's game. Yesterday's game was not bad, I think. I think yesterday's game we had like a really hardcore scaling draft, right? And we kind of just outscaled them. But this game, I think we showed that we can actually close out a game pretty damn cleanly. I think we kept the pressure up the whole game. We took every objective in the game pretty well. We team fought really well, so I was really happy with this game.
I know that it's very early in the season still, but given...
We're going to win the split.
Okay, thank you. I love the confidence, but that's not where I was going. Given the way the game is played right now and how Mad Lions used to be known as the team really performing well when it comes to team fighting, do you think indeed this is a meta suiting the team?
Yeah, definitely. I think that already we've shown that we're way more coordinated in terms of team fighting. So that's been great. I think actually a lot of credit goes to the players for bringing a lot of ideas on how we can improve that. Over the last couple of weeks, we've had so many really constructive discussions about how we want to change the way that we team fight, how we want to change the way that we approach objectives, how we want to value objectives differently. And those have been things that have come from inside of the team that I've been really proud of. So yeah, full credit to them.
And mentioning players, of course, I have to mention Nisky, because you're reunited with him. You used to work with him back in the Splice days. How much has he changed as a player, and what does he bring to the team when it comes to leadership and things outside the game, let's say?
As a player, I think Nisky's really developed in the sense that he was always a bit like this, but he's so proactive and he's so directed. He's really, really clear on what he wants. Obviously, back then, he was a much less experienced player, and now he's been inside so many successful teams. He knows what success looks like. He knows what the process is supposed to look like, and he's really demanding with it, which is fantastic, you know, of the players, of the staff, of the organization. I think he actually does a great job of making sure that he tells everyone, like, look, this is what I need from you. This is what I think we need to succeed. What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this issue? So, yeah. Big shout out to him.
Leadership, yeah, he's an amazing kid. We know that. But focusing on more Mad Lions, you said you're going to win the split. Very strong words coming on the first week, I believe. But what makes you believe that this iteration of Mad Lions is going to be a big improvement from spring?
I think having the addition of Nisky means that we just have that little bit of extra edge. I think Nisky's obviously such a big stage player. I think if you look at Nisky's career, whenever he's on a big stage, he performs so much better. He's really, really good under pressure. And I think that's a really calming influence for the rest of the team. I think he makes the rest of the team a lot better. That's kind of like his superpower. Yeah. So we're all really happy to have him. And yeah, I think because of that and because of the fact that I think William as well, Unforgiven, is getting a lot more experience. I think last split he had some nerves, and I think he's shaken those nerves off now, and he's performing way, way, way better, much more consistently. He's stepping up in comms a bit more often. And I think that's going to, like, those two things combined are going to be a big difference from last split.
I'm happy you mentioned Unforgiven because I wanted to talk about him. I believe this is his first on-stage experience with an audience, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
How did you prep him for that?
Various things. I mean, we do a lot of work with the players, making sure that we do kind of visualization exercises, we do meditation exercises, we talk to them about how to handle stress, how to handle pressure, how to communicate in the moment, what we need from them on the game day. I think with a very young player, often they need like one thing to focus on, you know? So it's often a case of, okay, look, this is what I need from you today. If you do this today, I'm happy no matter what. And I think William is delivering really well at the moment.
I hear only good things about my Lions. For now, Mac, thank you so much for the interview. Congrats on the first two games, and we're going to take a quick break now, everyone. And we'll be back for Game 3 in just a few minutes. Vitality versus Misfits coming up next.
Lion! Oh yes, the king of the jungle. Time for a quick Red Bull?
Red Bull? But you still won't be quicker than the lion!
I don't have to be quicker than the lion, just quicker than you.
Red Bull gives you wings.